Okay, so I had this big thing prepared for a Halloween special, but shit happened and I wasn't able to do it before October was over. So fuck it. And I already prepared something I wanted to say for this, but at this point I'm like really burned out and have trouble giving a shit. Well, actually, I still give a shit. It's just hard for me to be emotional about it. Now there's this one horror film, and in October I watched the shit out of it on Hulu. It's called Evil Dead: The Original. Now I know this probably is redundant because there probably isn't anyone in their mother who hasn't seen this film by now, or at least heard of it. But yeah, it's still one I wanted to make a recommendation for in case you haven't seen it yet. And I did type up the things I wanted to say, but again, I decided fuck it, and I would just read off some stuff that I thought was important. If you want to see what I had planned for yourself, go to Minds. It's on my account as a blog. I posted it back in October, and actually, no, yeah, maybe I will just read it. You know what? Again, I'll say fuck it, but I gotta be honest on this one. Despite my love of horror, I've not actually watched as many movies in the genre like other horror fans and enthusiasts. I spent more time reading book. Okay, fuck it. I'm just going over certain points in this that I thought were interesting and worth noting. Which first is the plot. Now, the plot of Evil Dead is this: it's like the ultimate cabin in the woods story. You got a couple of friends from Michigan State University. They go to this cabin in the woods, and I think it was set in Tennessee. Oh, not Tennessee, but I don't think it was ever said where it was set. But it was filmed in Tennessee, I believe. Anyway, they go there. Shit goes south so fast it's not even funny. That is the plot. And one by one, these people are picked off until only one survivor is left. Not going to say who yet. And that's more or less the plot. Um, Now we move on to the protagonist, who is the sole survivor. Now, normally in one of these horror films at the time, it was normal for a woman to be the victim because they had tried a couple times for a guy to be the victim. It didn't work out. If you don't believe me, see Nightmare on Elm Street 2, where you had the first male scream queen, I believe. Um, anyway, the protagonist is probably not who you would think it would be. If I didn't know what would happen in advance, I would have assumed Scott was the protagonist. But yeah, no, he dies. But he goes out like a man, I would think, because or at least like a survivor. And anyway, one by one, Scott and the protagonist's sister, girlfriend, Scott's girlfriend, all of them get picked off until it's this one protagonist, and that is Ash motherfucking Williams. Unfortunately, in this movie, he's not the badass we know him as in two. But hey, I say screw that because this. Actually, no, there is one complaint about this movie is there's not a lot of character development. Now you get a shitload of that in Evil Dead 2. The first one is more like, oh, actually, I'll get to that later, but yeah, the protagonist, like, he's not the best, but at the same time, you're watching a guy get mentally destroyed by an event. The cast, you have, well, Scotty, who's like Ash's friend. You have Linda, Ash's girlfriend. Um, his sister Cheryl, Scotty's girlfriend. I forget her name. But they all did a pretty good job, I believe. And it's a shame the rest of them didn't have bigger acting careers. That was more or less the cast. And then we get to probably one of my favorite MacGuffins in all of fiction. Well, in movies anyway. The Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Now, this book is a hell of an antagonist. Well, more of a MacGuffin. Like, it's the reason shit goes south. Now, before they got to the cabin, there was this guy. He left a recording box. They played it. And the guy said aloud this incantation that he had translated from this book. Now, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis is, if you aren't a Lovecraft fan, or if you didn't figure this out already, it's taken from Lovecraft himself. Because I think he's the first person to ever use the Necronomicon as a word. And it's basically Sam Raimi's own Lovecraftian horror, I guess. Which is just another aspect of the film's Lovecraftian elements and why I like it. Because I like Lovecraft. Anyone who has a problem with Lovecraft and says this is a downgrade on the movie because it's associated with Lovecraft, kindly leave the hall. I want to say that up front. So I'm not sure the extent of Lovecraft's influence, but yeah, it's very Lovecraftian. And the only way, and one of the ways Ash gets the Deadites to finally stop attacking him is through something he has to do to the book. I will let you figure that out with your imagination. Next, you have the real antagonist of the films, the Deadites. Now, as I said, there's this recording. They let it play, and shit went south. Now, this evil spirit possesses them one by one, and they become what's known as a Deadite. Now, a Deadite is probably one of my favorite horror film monsters. Not kind of like the Creeper. It's nasty. It's dirty. It plays down and dirty. They do not give a damn about your feelings, and they have no problem psychologically torturing. Actually, I think they get off on that. That's the feeling I get from them. They're like, in some ways, they remind me of Freddy Krueger. Like there are multiple Freddy Kruegers, only without the sense of humor, and they also act childish in a way. And they're kind of disturbing because one of the women who got possessed, she bit off a hand because it got cut. I'll repeat that in case you think you misheard me. She bit off her own fucking hand at the wrist. Just because it got cut. Just because it got cut. And, yeah. So these things are nasty. And I would not want to be around them in any way possible. Like, if you told me I had to go near a Deadite, I would ask to be shot in the head. And, okay, this is the last thing I want to say, was when I said that you're watching a guy get mentally destroyed throughout the film, I mean, his grip on reality is questionable by the end. Because when you and some people would say Ash becomes an asshole by the end of the trilogy. Yeah, look at the stuff he has to do. Because here's the thing about Deadites. There's only one way to make sure they don't get back up after you take them down. You have to commit bodily dismemberment. So you have to cut off the arms, the legs, the head. Like, you know the necromorphs from Dead Space? That's what a Deadite is. You have to tear them apart limb by limb. That's the only way they cannot get back up. So Ash has to do this or tries to do this to at least one of his loved ones. Now, in the first film, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He tried, he could not. He ended up cutting off Linda's head after she had been possessed by accident. So he's kind of a wuss in this one, but you know what, fuck it. And at one point, you see him trying to regain some control of, or regain his grip on reality by touching a mirror. Instead of touching a little cold surface, his hand goes into the mirror because the solid surface of the mirror has been turned into fucking water. And then he recoils it back and screams in horror. Then the evil entity that had sent spirits to possess his friends, he sees it outside and takes a shot at it. Unfortunately, he misses. If there's any other complaints about this film, I would say it's probably the acting, but I think that's excusable because the thing about this film you have to understand, it was made by a bunch of people who dropped out of college. Well, no, it was made by a few guys who dropped out of college, and then they got a few local actors in Michigan to come help them, I think. That is why, so I find that excusable. Even the director, Sam Raimi, he dropped out of film school to do this, and I envy that motherfucker. I really do. I'd be like, you got to drop out of college? You lucky son of a bitch. You lucky son of a bitch. I would pay money to do that. Because I hate college, I'm not going to lie. Anyway, there's also the fact that special effects probably weren't that great, but again, this was a low-budget film. Well, I say low budget. It kind of depends on how you look at the budget. And I still say for a film that didn't have that good quality, it still turned out marvelously well. Like, if you told me I had to watch this for the rest of my life once a day, I probably would. I would say, fuck it. It's good. It's fun. It's rewatchable. Unlike most modern films. or I would assume, because I don't watch modern films anymore. Although I still want to watch The Death of Stalin. Anyway, there's some other things about the film. Oh yeah, here's another thing. This was a film that took a page out of Dirty Harry's book, and it knew its limitations. If you get that reference, good on you. Like, it didn't try to be anything pretentious or more than it was. Like, this is something I learned from a buddy of mine, Charaza. I brought it up once in the comments section of a live stream. He said that was a film that knew what it was. Now, I used to not know what that meant. Like, people would say that, and I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? But yeah, no, this was a film that knew what it was. There was no pretentiousness. There was tension, a good build-up, and some good jump scares. But yeah, other than that, like, there was no deep philosophical bullshit. It was a horror film. They set out to make a horror film, and they made a horror film. They did their job, which is more than I can say for most people in Hollywood right now. And yeah, and for a bunch of college dropouts, they did really well. Like, it launched their careers. I mean, albeit their careers were almost ruined by a studio who fucked with them when they were doing Crime Wave, but yeah, still good. It was a good film. I would watch if you told me I had to watch this film every day until the day I died, like once a day until I'm an old man, I would do it. I would seriously consider it. Like, you could tell me I had to watch this till I'm my grandmother's age, and I'd still watch it. I mean, I'd probably get bored eventually because I'm an easily bored person, but you know what? Fuck it, it's tolerable. Anyway, that's the film. I don't want to give away too much. Well, I've probably given away a shitload of stuff that I probably shouldn't have. But yeah, those are the main things about the movie I liked and still like. And I can't really emphasize how good of a film this was for, like, a student project. Well, not a student project. But yeah, I cannot really stress how good of a film this was. And yeah, I've been watching it since, I want to say, my freshman year or the year after my freshman year. Like, I think I heard about this right before I started attending the freshman academy. Which, if that's confusing, that's because, like, if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean, when I was in high school, like, before my freshman year, they took a school for preschoolers and said all the freshmen had to attend there exclusively. So, yeah. Ever since then, I have been aware of it, and then I think when I was a sophomore, I finally got to see it. Which was a weird experience, because I remember thinking Scott looks like a very Harrison Ford face, I thought. Which, looking back on it, kind of makes me feel like a retard. But then again, who doesn't think stupid shit when they're in high school? Just look at David Hogg. And, yeah, no, that's all I can really say. Like, this was, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but yeah, this was supposed to be a Halloween special, but shit happens. So consider this your late Halloween special. And if you haven't checked out this film, why the fuck haven't you? No, seriously, if you haven't, please tell me in the comments why you haven't seen it yet. I really want to know. As for the remake, I can take it or leave it. Like, it's good. The effects are really good, but, well, not special effects, because I think some of it might be CGI. I think. I have not looked into that film yet. But, yeah, it is a good film. But, yeah, no, that's, you know what, fuck it. That's all I want to say. That is the end of the video. Have a nice day, and remember the game was rigged from the start.